Hello there, folks. This is a cool application. Runs a control algorithm for a whole neutralization process. You can see here we've got two tanks on the HMI screen. Uh, tank 1 over here and tank 2 over here. What's going to happen is we're going to fill up tank 1 to some amount, and we're going to do some run logic to control the pH in it. And then when the pH is stable for a while, then we'll eventually dump that out. At the same time, we'll be doing the other tank, go through the same process, and then it'll dump, and then it just continues to run. So let me go through the example of how it works, and then I'll show you the code behind the scenes that makes all the magic happen. So we'll press the start button here to start it. First thing comes up, there's a little warning, tells the operator, hey, tank 1 and tank 2 must be empty to start. You can see right now both are empty, so we'll hit the accept button. Now what's happened is this valve over here is opened, and water should be coming into this tank here. Now these tanks don't have an analog sensor on them. They just have three floats on the side, one at low, one at medium, and one at high level. So as that tank starts to fill up, you can see water jumps up. It's discrete, so you don't see much. Hold on a second. So you can see the tank is filling up here, and tank 1 is filling down here, the step says. So if it fills up past the halfway point, then it will trip to stage 2 here, right there. And then there's a 10-minute delay, which I'm simulating over 30 seconds, which is doing here. And at this point, it turned on the pump, it opened this valve, and it also opened this valve, and now it's oscillating through the code right here. Or not the water, but the water is going through this method as this tank fills up. Now after 10 minutes here, this is still open, so this guy's still filling up here, but the water is flowing through here right now. So there's a 10-minute delay at that point. Now we're going to switch over to our, well, we're waiting right now. It should fill up a little further to the top for it to move on to the next level. There it goes, top one trips. And now what's happening is now we're in a 30-minute pH test. So at this point in time, the pH level has got to be between this range before it moves on to the next step. So if the pH happens to go too high, for instance, like there, you can see now that this pump is turning on. It's pumping in some acid into the liquid here, and so forth. And of course, if the pH happens to go back into the acceptable zone, that guy turns off. Or if for some reason the pH goes too low, it'll drop down below. Now, we went past that 30-minute, but now we're in a 30-minute test. And what has to happen now is in this window, it has to stay consistently in the zone for 30 continuous minutes before it moves to the next stage where it then dumps. Now you also notice right now this valve is open, so the other tank is actually filling up with water right now as well, doing that while this one's working away. So once this guy stays within the zone for 30 consecutive seconds, or 30 minutes in this case, but we're doing 30 seconds, then it will move on to the next stage in here. So right now our solution is going through here, and this guy's opening, filling up this tank, if you will, and the water is going through here like this. So wait for this to time out with our simulated 30 seconds, which is supposed to be 30 minutes. If the pH had tripped, this would reset and it'd start all over again. But right now it's going to stay within the zone. So now if you look what happened, pump's still on. This valve is opened. This valve is closed. This one is still open here. This guy's filling up. And now at this time, the water is going to be flowing out into the city drain. So at this point in time, we're going to be getting some gallons that are going to be coming out of this unit here. So you can see now as this guy goes down, it's dumping gallons into the city here. So as tank 1 starts to go down, see there, still going down. We're still dumping some gallons here. And this goes a little lower. There's the next, still dumping here, as so forth. And then once it gets completely empty, then this will stop. So right now, again, these are discrete sensors so that it doesn't catch up. So it's completely stopped. That's stopped there. Now it's going to go down. It wrote this, it's doing some data logging, and now we've switched to the other tank, tank 2 fill up here. So now tank 2 is in the process of trying to fill up. Once it gets to the halfway point, it starts our 10-minute delay right here, which is what it's in right here. So if it fills all the way up, let's see if we can get it to there, it's all the way full. Now notice over here, once that guy went past the top one, this valve opened. So now the other tank is also opening, but I'm doing the 10-minute delay right now on this particular guy. Notice the pH is a little high, so now it's going to go to the 30-minute pH test. However, can't really run that because the pH is too low. So if the pH happened to have been, say, in the acceptable zone, for instance, let's see if we can get it to go into the acceptable zone. There we go. Now our 30-minute timer sits, but it's got to sit there consistently. So maybe it was a little off, and for some reason went low. Now you can see the other pump is kicked on because it's kicking in a different solution to raise the pH. So now it might go up. And if it's in the zone acceptable for amount of 30 minutes, continuous, and this guy's also filling up over here, you notice that it's filling up because this valve is on right here. So we're doing this. We got to do this for continuous 30 minutes before we move on to dump this tank. Notice right now the solution flow is through here. Disregard the blue valves. Those are hand valves that the people will actually change on the site. We're doing these mechanical valves. So now we're in the mode of emptying tank 2. Notice it closed this valve and it opened this one. So now we're going to pump out of this tank. So now we've got water pumping out of there. So we can see that our gallons are going out, and of course, as tank 1 lowers, there we go. And then once the bottom one goes empty, then it will close this valve and should start over the same process with tank number 1. So we're empty there, take it down, boom, there we go. And now we're back to doing the 10-minute delay on tank 1. So we're filling up tank 1. We could go ahead and fill it all the way up right there. Notice that tank 2, the valve is now opening. After this 10-minute delay, we'll start the same pH test. So if there's any high pH right now, it's not going to do any logic with this because it's not until the 30-minute window here sits. So watch, you'll see pH is already too high. Boom, immediately it turns on this pump to add something to lower the pH. So if the pH gets in the acceptable zone, there it is, it's off. It's got to sit there for 30 seconds. Notice this guy's filling up over here. Now here's we put in some built-in logic here. What if worst case scenario, while we're doing this, for some odd reason, tank 2 fills all the way up? So now we got an alarm situation in this case. And in this case, we've got this valve closed, this valve closed. Both tanks are completely full right now. So what the operator has to do right now is open, well, they're actually draining this valve right now, is emptying tank 1. So it's going down, and that clears the valve. And of course, that would be incrementing there. And we lower that guy down. This time we get all the way to the bottom. And the procedure starts all over again. So now we're doing tank 2, and it just keeps going on and on, and until they hit the reset, which stops it all at that point, and so forth. So that's kind of the loop that keeps happening here in this application. So I can hit the pause button to stop the logic at any time, and I can also manually click on valves to close things. So here, if I was to close that one at this juncture and open this one, click on it, now I'm dumping. So theoretically, I'm going to empty tank 1, or I'm sorry, tank 2, all the way down to the bottom here. And there I've emptied it. And at this point, I can start the whole system over by hitting the reset button and clear the pause so it'll run. And the whole process begins all over again. So this is if I click the start button, it starts right back over. Comes up, tank 1 and tank 2 must be empty, accept, and we move on, opening that. So that's the screen part of it. Let me show you the code. That's the magic behind the whole scenes. So if I go over here to Crimson, here's the database that you were watching. All of this code happens in the programming section over here on the left. And all I have here is a giant case switch statement that runs each particular section of the code. And then I've got some other uh, functions written on the side that we call within here. But as I go through this, you can see the different steps are in here and so forth. I call pop-ups. Then I do a 30-minute thing in here, do some logic here. Notice I've got some nice text in here to tell the end user what's going to happen. And as it goes through the steps, some of it will call other programs. So for instance, the acid logic is this program here. Basically, if the acid is above a set point, it will, if it's above 100, it will trip the other one to open up. And if it drops below it, it'll shut it off. And if I go to the caustic, is the other one, if it drops below 6.5 or 65 pH in this case, it'll add pH to it. And if it goes above, I don't know if it's pH, I guess it's caustic, something. Acid and caustic here, I don't know what this thing is, but it'll actually do that. So those are the logic that runs, that's being called in here. And this whole loop continually runs through all these different case statements, step by step, and runs all the logic for the whole procedure. So it's a pretty cool way to do the code in here. And this function, this whole program, you might ask, where is this program run? Well, if I right click over here and do find usage, notice it took me to this page. If I right click on this page and go to properties and go to actions, I'm running that program right here in the on tick, this program here. And then I got the simulator for the level because it's discrete inputs. So I'm simulating an analog with just 3 levels. That's what makes the tag or the tank kind of jump up and down. There's only really 3 levels here. But anyway, kind of a cool application. If you're interested in the database or anything, hey, feel free to send me an email or something. I'll be glad to share it with you. I should do a video on this whole concept, maybe a little more generically, but really turned out nice. So anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great day, folks.